Hi, this is Miss Ball. We're going to pick up where we left off yesterday. This is part 2 of the classification notes. You should have already made a foldable flip chart for taking your notes today with the 6 kingdoms. And if you did not, you need to pause this video and make that flip chart because that's what you're going to be taking your notes on today. So, picking up where we left off, we talked about how Linnaeus developed a system to classify the world around him. But he only recognized 2 kingdoms. Why is this? Well, think about living in the 1700s. He didn't have access to the same tools that we have today. He missed a lot of things, especially the microscopic things, because he didn't have a microscope. So we now use a 6-kingdom system to classify the world around us. And you should have written these 6 kingdoms on the flaps of your foldable. So they are eubacteria, archaebacteria, protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia. If you did not label the flaps of your foldable, pause the video and do that right now. So we use Linnaeus' system, but scientists have also added on to his system in modern times. We've added a whole new taxonomic level called domain, which is the broadest category of all. This was done to recognize differences in cell structure between organisms. There are just 3 domains. They are bacteria, eukarya, and archaea. As we go through each of the domains and the kingdoms, be sure you're writing down information in the flap that goes with each kingdom. The first domain that we're going to talk about is domain bacteria. Bacteria are all microscopic, but when there are enough of them growing together, we can see them with our naked eye, such as in the picture on the right. We call those colonies, where they sort of grow on top of each other. But in truth, if you want to look at them individually, you would need a really good microscope or a scanning electron microscope. And that's what was used to take the picture on the left with the little green rods. So these are the things that you're going to want to write under the flap of your foldable. And if you don't know what these words mean, you're also going to need to write a definition. So we're going to see a lot of our Latin and Greek root words. And hopefully by practicing them earlier in this unit, you'll feel a little bit more comfortable with new words as you come across them. So the first trait of domain bacteria is that they are all unicellular, meaning they have one cell. They are prokaryotic, meaning they have no organized nucleus. And they have a cell wall that protects them on the outside, made of a complex sugar called peptidoglycan. This group is really, really diverse. Bacteria usually get a bad rap because a few species in this group cause disease, but most do not. Bacteria live in and on our bodies. All members of domain bacteria are also members of kingdom eubacteria. This is the only kingdom that falls under the domain bacteria. The next domain we're going to look at is called domain archaea. Remember that prefix, archae? What does that mean? Think about the word archaeology. Archaea means ancient, and this is an ancient group, the most ancient group found on the surface of the earth. We don't have a whole lot of interaction on a daily basis with the members of this group, but they're still important in our environment. So the characteristics of domain archaea that you should write on your flip chart are that they are unicellular, prokaryotic, their cell walls are present, but they're not made of peptidoglycan. They're made of an unusual lipid instead, and lipids are fats. The archaea are found in extreme environments, so we call them extremophile, meaning they love extreme environments. You might find them in the hot springs at Yellowstone National Park, deep in ocean vents on the ocean floor, in extremely salty water like the Dead Sea, or places with no oxygen. You have some of these living deep in your gut tract, where oxygen generally is not very prevalent. All members of domain archaea are also members of kingdom archaebacteria. So there's only one kingdom that falls under domain archaea. Here are some of the places where you might find archaea. Places that don't have a lot of oxygen, like this deep thermal vent in the ocean on the left, full of methane, which would be toxic to many other living organisms. And in other hot places, such as a geyser or a hot spring in Yellowstone National Park. They would definitely be called thermophiles because they love those hot environments. They may also live in a very salty place, such as the picture in the center. Since they love salt, we would call this group halophiles, salt lovers. The next domain we're going to talk about in the third domain is domain eukarya. Everything on this slide belongs to domain eukarya, so it is a very diverse domain. Here are the characteristics to write on your foldable for domain eukarya. They're almost all multicellular. Many of them are multicellular. They are eukaryotic, meaning in this case, they actually have a true nucleus with a nuclear membrane that separates the nucleus from the rest of the cell. They are divided into 4 remaining kingdoms: Protista, fungi, plantae, and animalia. Kingdom Protista is a complex group. It's been split up before, and it should probably be split up again in the future. This group does not fit together very well according to evolutionary history, so some people give it the nickname the taxonomic garbage can. The members of this group are mostly unicellular, but not all of them. Some of them behave more like plants, such as the algae, which photosynthesizes. Some of them behave more like animals, such as the protozoan on the right. This amoeba hunts down its food and engulfs it and eats it, just like we might eat other organisms. Heterotrophs are organisms that get their energy from other organisms. And this is one of the characteristics of kingdom fungi. Unlike plants, they cannot use the sun for photosynthesis, so they're going to eat dead and decaying matter and take those nutrients to allow them to grow. Members of this group are mostly multicellular, with the exception of the yeast cells, we'll be talking about later in the unit. And they have cell walls surrounding each of their cells made of a polysaccharide called chitin. Chitin is kind of tough. If you've ever tried to cut up a mushroom before with a dull knife, you know that it's really hard. And that's the chitin protecting and surrounding the cells of the mushroom. Kingdom Plantae is the next kingdom that falls under domain eukarya. Make sure you know the term autotroph. That means they get their energy from the sun. They convert light energy into chemical energy in a process we call photosynthesis. Plants have cell walls to protect them, and they're made of cellulose, a complex carbohydrate. They have chloroplasts, and it's usually easy to pick out members of Kingdom Plantae because almost all plants have this green pigment, chlorophyll, inside of their chloroplast that helps them with photosynthesis. The last kingdom we're going to explore today is Kingdom Animalia. This kingdom is quite diverse, and we're going to study it in a lot of detail at the end of the school year. It's the only kingdom without cell walls. There's a Quizlet available that will be linked to this assignment that you can use to go back and study the terms that you're going to see in this notes section. And you can always find more Quizlets under ADVBIO homework on Quizlet.com. How to study for a test in advanced biology. Your notes are going to be your most important study aid, especially this year since you're allowed to use your notes on the test. So your notes are only as good as you make them. Make sure you keep them in an organized and safe place, such as in a binder. And you may wish to review the PowerPoint as you get ready to take the test before the test day to kind of refresh your memory on the visuals that went with the notes. There will be an optional study guide. You do not need to turn it in, but it's great practice. And if you're looking through the study guide and you can't answer a question, be sure and ask for help. The Quizlet could be helpful, but it's mostly just going to cover the vocabulary terms. And a lot of the questions on the classification quiz are going to be more application questions. Remember, there are no retakes and no test corrections in advanced biology. Study early and often, ask lots of questions so that you're ready to go on test day.